God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
There is more than enough. Let me say that again. There is more than enough in spite of our fears to the contrary. More than enough of what? Everything we need. The last time we went to feed the homeless at Austin Street Shelter, the page listing the first 17 people to sign up was missing. As we gathered in the parking lot of the church, putting lasagnas in the open trunks of cars that would make the trip, people anxiously discussed whether there would be enough lasagnas or enough people to serve. Some people always go directly to Austin Street Shelter with those lasagnas, so we really didn't know how many we had. My wife Diana was in charge. She remained calm and said, there will be what there will be, and it will be enough. We actually had 9 lasagnas left over that we put in the refrigerators in Austin Street for future use. And we had more people than we needed in order to serve. Diana's not quite that calm when she's preparing dinner for guests at our house. She worries about having enough food, especially for those with allergies or restricted diets of some sort. And then afterwards, there's always the problem about what to do with the leftover food. There's always more than enough. 40% of the food produced in the United States is wasted. Some of it's never harvested. Some of it's lost in food processing plants. Some fresh produce and meat gets older than the standard the supermarkets have while sitting on their shelves. Some of it spoils in our refrigerators and on our shelves at home. And some of it's left on our plates after we eat. Hunger in our country is never because there's not enough, but because it is not always distributed where it's needed. While the percentage of waste varies in different countries, too little food being produced in the world is never the reason for starvation. There's also plenty of clothing to go around. Diana and I could easily clothe 4 people out of our closets and still have plenty of clothes for ourselves. And we're not even big clothing buyers. Diana's one of the pickiest shoppers I've ever seen. We might have to run to the washing machine more frequently and make the next trip or 2 to the dry cleaners every month if we gave away 2/3 of our clothing. But we would still be able to dress well. How much unused clothes are in your closet? Think about all the discounted clothing at the end of the season in department stores and clothing stores. Not to mention the name brand merchandise in stores like Ross, Marshalls, and TJ Maxx. There's more than enough clothing. We have enough housing in the United States to house every homeless person several times over. Some of the units are simply vacant. Some are seldom used vacation homes. Some are weekend getaways. Some are seasonal housing. Admittedly, housing is more complicated than food or clothing. Many of the homeless are addicted to drugs or alcohol, and others are mentally ill. Simply providing housing is not the only problem. However, the economics of homelessness is that taking people off the streets costs less than it does to leave them there and provide police and medical services. So if there's more than enough food, clothing, and shelter to go around, why can we easily find starvation? people wearing rags and homelessness, especially in the wealthier countries. I'm not sure of all the reasons, but a major one is our fear that we will not have enough. If I start sharing by giving away part of what I have, either in food, clothing, or money, will I have enough left for me? The irony is that statistically, those of us who have much are less likely to share than those who have barely enough. Those of us who have a lot are more afraid of sharing what we have than those who have only a little more than they need. Perhaps we who have much have just forgotten how painful it is to not have enough. Of course we're afraid of sharing. The more we have, the more we stand to lose if we begin sharing indiscriminately. An employed person with children might have 30 minutes a week to spare for visiting the sick or the imprisoned. A retired person might have 30 hours a week. Spending 30 minutes visiting the sick or imprisoned might make a small difference in our attitude. Spending 30 hours a week visiting the sick and the imprisoned would almost certainly transform our lives. How many hours do we waste watching a TV show that can barely hold our attention? What would it do to us if we spent that time with other people? If I had $10 I can spare to give to feed the poor, I can easily find a way to use it productively. There's also not a lot that I can put thought for myself with that $10. If I had $10 million, the problem is suddenly much more complicated. How much do I need to keep for myself to make sure that I do not join the hungry or the homeless? And once I've decided how much, how can I make the most effective use of what I give away? Most of us have more than $10 we can spare, but a lot less than $10 million. However, we still face the same issues. What do I need to keep for myself? How much is it fair for me to keep? If I have a spouse and or children, what is fair for them? How can I make sure that what I give gets to those who really need it? These are real issues, but they can become excuses. I do not have to wait for the answer to them to start sharing what I have. I am one of the fat sheep mentioned in the passage in Ezekiel. Certainly not the fattest, but one of the fattest. Do I use that bulk to push the leaner sheep out of the herd or away from the grass and water? If I do, I will be judged for that. Do I allow my fears about not having enough myself prevent me from sharing a part of the abundance God has put at my disposal with those who are in real need? Do I allow my doubts about whether they are really in need keep me from feeding Jesus when he is hungry or clothing him when he is naked? Do I delay giving until I'm sure that I'm giving the right amount? How do you think these excuses will stand up on the last day? I'm unsure about how much God and I need to keep for ourselves. I'm not sure what's fair to our children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. I do not have the ability to know who is really in need and who is taking advantage of other people's generosity. I'm not at all sure how much to give or where. None of these doubts excuse me from starting sharing what I have with those who have less than they need. However, not giving enough is infinitely better than not giving. I'm sure that Diane and I don't give too much. I'm not sure that the neediest are always the ones who receive what we give. I think our own fears probably keep us from giving as much as we could in time or money. We're working on those fears. And we try not to push those with less power than we have away from what they need. This Christmas, we decided that we would try to give to the needy more than we give to each other and to our relatives. We will probably do that through Episcopal Relief and Development, since their operating costs are already paid by the church, and they have a matching grant for gifts they give through December the 31st. I guess that leaves us out of giving whatever Neiman Marcus has for the top gift this year. But it could mean that we will not fail to feed, clothe, house, or visit Jesus when he is hungry, naked, homeless, sick, or in prison.